I'm Frank Vaughn. It's July 15th, 2025, and I've got the kids today. My wife is out and about, returning my beloved in-laws to the airport where they can fly home. So if they come rampaging in here, it might be an interruption. People have been saying in the comment section, why aren't you talking about Canada? And what's this anti-Israeli, anti-Semitic stuff that you're doing? There is nothing inherently anti-Semitic about criticizing the IDF and telling the truth about Israel. Do you realize, and I baited you yesterday, for those of you who are watching who I'm talking about, with the Al Jazeera clip, because the underlying facts that Al Jazeera is covering are unassailable. Two Israeli prime ministers giving their opinion about the concentration camp being built in Palestine, intending to house the entire Palestinian population so that they can go on to develop Gaza as they see fit. Two Israeli prime ministers, it doesn't matter if Al Jazeera is reporting it or the Jerusalem Times. The same with the reports of the use of automatic weaponry on Palestinians, unarmed Palestinian civilians trying to get aid. That comes from the IDF troops itself and was reported in Israeli media. It doesn't matter if Al Jazeera picks up the story as well, because if you spent the time that it took to write the comment accusing me of anti-Semitism and losing my objectivity, if you took the same amount of time and you did a simple Google search, you would figure it out for yourself. But you don't do that because you're homers. And this is a world full of homers. And what do I mean by homers? It's a reference to when you watch a hockey broadcast, the home team has home announcers, and they clearly have their bias, and you enjoy it because it's your hockey team. In geopolitics, you have your home team too. I don't have a home team. I am homeless officially at this point. What's going on over at CBC? What's going on in Canada? Carney says a U.S. trade deal without some tariffs is unlikely. Next up is a time for new tactics in the fight back against Trump. What Trump's new tariff threat could mean for Canada. Trump threatening 35% tariffs on Canadian goods. Trump threatens 35% tariffs. Should Canada take it seriously? CUSMA compliant goods exempt from Trump's latest tariff threat. It's called the USMCA everywhere else, but we call it by a different name because we're Canada and we're proud. Buy Canadian boycott still strong 6 months into U.S. trade war. Anti-Trump, anti-America. But the thing that I would just like to highlight is that when they talk about a deal without some tariffs, they're talking about American tariffs on us. CBC never wants to tell you. These hacks, these wannabe pretend, they're not even wannabe pretend journalists. They don't even pretend anymore. This is state media. They do not tell you the inordinate amount of tariffs we charge the Americans to do business here in Canada. That's not what CBC is talking about because they're homers. And their home is the Liberal Party of Canada, the bureaucracy, and the public sector unions. We charge America ungodly amounts of tariffs to do business here in Canada. But of course, no one wants to tell you that. But what else is going on in Canada? Ooh, what's this? Is this our prime minister imported from Europe? Parachuted into the Liberal Party in a fake leadership election where the Liberal Party loved to virtue signal that they opened their party to everybody. It was free to register and free to vote in, and then they proceeded to disenfranchise 250,000 people, amongst other shenanigans, so that their hand-selected man could be so-called elected with the most statistically improbable results across the country. I mean, he beat Chrystia Freeland in her own riding. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. But here he is with his wife and Ghislaine Maxwell. Where have we seen her name before? These aren't random photos, folks. Look at them. They're hanging out together. They're laying in the grass together. They're collaborating together. These are old friends. This is happening in Canada. This is of pertinence. Not on the CBC front page. Or for that matter, you know what? Let's just do this. This is real time. Right now, we're going to go to CTV. Let's see what CTV is talking about. Let's see if it's any different. Most countries will likely have at least some tariffs by the United States, Mark Carney, Inflation rises to 1.9% in June as vehicle price hikes accelerate. Probably if I click on that, I'll find out it's all Trump's fault. Most Canadians prefer a tough approach in trade talks with Trump. We could do another survey called Most Canadians Completely Brainwashed and Have Absolutely No Idea What's Going On in the World, because that's the real problem. What else can we check out today? A poll from Polaris' annual Trust in Media survey ranks Canada's most trusted news outlets, and at the top, I don't know who they're surveying, but I actually believe this. I don't believe this is fake. This is Canada. This study also finds high levels of trust in major TV networks like CBC, CTV, and Global. I believe it. I genuinely believe it. It's the only way that you can explain the state of affairs in this country. I think Canadians are the most hypnotized and brainwashed people on the face of the planet, the least concentration of which are in Saskatchewan and Alberta, but we have our problems too. You wonder why I'm trying to talk about things that are far more geopolitically important. Canada is irrelevant, folks. Do you realize that? That the leadership since Stephen Harper, even Stephen Harper, conveyed a semblance of relevance to the world. We are irrelevant now. We don't do anything. We're a resource colony. We export a bunch of raw material. That's pretty much what we do. We don't do any real research and development in the medical field, in spite of our vaunted socialist system where we just leave people on lines, in queues, waiting for care to die, or we offer them maid services while they're waiting. I mean, all we are is a carpet for everybody else to wipe their feet on. And at the same time, as I've highlighted in all my video work, the system itself sucks. The bureaucrats run more than the parliamentarians do. The government's not even parliament. All the things that I've highlighted. So I focus at this point in time on issues of much more significance to the world. They're not emanating from Canada. So other than the fact that we have a manager who's been parachuted in as prime minister and is responsible for carving up this nation and gutting this nation and giving it away to his friends and family, which include Ghislaine Maxwell. What else is going on out there right now? Donald Trump, deep state swamp monster, is the opinion piece. President Trump's most loyal supporters are being forced to confront something they never thought possible. The man they believed was sent to destroy the deep state now looks more and more like a card-carrying member of it. For all the years of Drain the Swamp sloganeering, it's becoming harder to ignore the swamp water sloshing around his ankles, and that is the truth. Trump is now sending weapons to Ukraine after Pentagon tried to stop a shipment. He is floating the idea of a form of amnesty for undocumented immigrants working on farms and hotels. He is pushing a bloated spending bill that real fiscal conservatives would have torched 10 years ago. And looming behind all of this, the Jeffrey Epstein scandal that simply refuses to disappear, no matter how many times Trump tries to swat it away. Here's an article. MAGA starts to move on from Epstein drama as Trump digs in. Official MAGA has. I don't believe the people have, but maybe they'll forget about it and they'll gloss it over and they'll just count their wins, which I don't know if you can count wins. What are the wins? I keep being told that the second Trump is the best Trump that there ever has been and ever will be. But deportations are down. Amnesty's been floated already. He changes his mind, and when he does, he expects everybody to just memory hole what he said. This Epstein thing is a clear-cut case of that. Very clearly, he communicated his desire to see justice done and promised it to his people. And now he says there's no story there, no client list, no blackmailing, and is actively opposed to any further investigation. Probably covering up for, and this is an interesting thing too, being called an anti-Semite for covering the very clear relationship between Netanyahu being in Washington for a week and the about-face of Trump on Ukraine and the about-face of Trump when it comes to Epstein. It's kind of crazy. Republicans moved to block Democratic effort to force release of Epstein files. White House has come under fire for not releasing documents related to the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Republican lawmakers have moved to block Democratic effort to force the release of so-called Epstein files, so-called a near mythological trove of undisclosed information about the convicted Jeffrey Epstein at the center of an internal political war among U.S. conservatives. But it's actually even worse than that because remember, our prime minister's friend, Ghislaine Maxwell, also has offered to testify before Congress about Epstein. And guess who's trying to block it? Republicans, the very people who promised you the exact opposite behavior that they are now conducting. The same people who said, under Trump, within 24 hours he'd have the Ukraine war stopped. Now he is sending even more weapons. He's sending even more artillery, more bombs. Maybe we should have a look at what you're buying in Ukraine. We're just going to let this play in the background. This is the face of modern warfare. Drones killing the sons and daughters, killing Russians, killing Ukrainians. So you get all this time into raising your sons so that some Ukrainian scumbag can round them up off the streets and send them off to the front to die by drone. I'm actually genuinely curious how many or how much money Amazon has made off of drones that are being converted to weaponry. Because, I mean, these are commercially available drones. There's nothing special about these. They're modified with explosives. There's an exhausted soldier. There's a drone. Doesn't even have a gun. Unarmed combatant. Drone considers his fate, looks at him, and then goes right in. You're going to see it soon. It cuts beforehand. Boom! Dead man. Poor guy just trying to sleep. Exhausted. This is the face of warfare, folks. Autonomous drones. Uselessly killing over 1 million men in a war that's entirely preventable. A war now that Donald Trump is committed to. As much as he talks about peace and blusters and blowhards, the fact of the matter is he's going to send more weapons to Ukraine than has been sent to date. His pressure isn't maximized on Zelensky. It's horrible. I don't know how you can look at this. Considering this war, considering the shortage of able-bodied men in the West, considering the absolute lack of demographic viability, how anybody can support this. It's like video game killing. And this video, by the way, is just the Russian side and their targeting. If you go to other YouTube channels, you can watch from the Russian perspective all the Ukrainians who are dying in this exact same way. It just goes on and on and on. These poor, tragic lives. Rounded up, sent to the front to die. Look at this guy. This one kills me. He doesn't even try and resist. He's accepted his fate. He's going to die anyway. And there he goes. What are we doing? I just don't understand it. There are so many pundits that sit here in Canada and the United States in their nice suits with their bow ties and their fancy cameras, and they just virtue signal all day about their unending support for Ukraine. And they shrug their shoulders when you show them exactly what their words are supporting. It's completely pointless. It's a blood sacrifice. It's horrible to see. And in order to keep it going, here's this headline from the Express. It's actually written twice. We'll show you the other one eventually. World War III tension spike as Vladimir Putin giving detailed thought to using nukes in Ukraine. Wow, right? Isn't that crazy? And then you read the subtext. A former senior British Army officer has warned that Putin may resort to using tactical nuclear weapons if the war does not end soon. So we have an article which is basically seeking to inflame tensions and further entrench the war. And when you read the preview for the article, when you put it up on social media or you read the preview in Google, all you see is this headline. You have to click on it, which most people, I mean, the vast majority of people do not click and go beyond the headline to find the subtext that it's just some British guy, some former senior British Army officer spreading rumors. But more disconcertingly is today, Russia warns of nuclear Armageddon after Trump's latest Ukraine move. World War III tension has spiked as Vladimir Putin is said to be giving detailed thought to using nukes in Ukraine. So the point I want to make here, they're recycling the British Army officer's headline, but the new information, which is the subject of the story, do they even tell you? I don't believe they actually they don't even tell you that this bit, giving detailed thought to using nukes, comes from that British Army officer. What they're actually talking about, though, is state TV propagandist and war pundit Alexander Sladkov said, Trump is trying to scare us with missiles, but this is difficult to do. Trump should be scared. Everyone is trying to push us to turn Kiev and Lviv into Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The new Trump deal greenlights supply of possibly $10 billion worth of defensive and offensive missiles and other arms. Remember the other day when Trump said it's mostly defensive weapons? He lied, just like he's lied about so many other things. I mean, it's time for MAGA to wake up. The Epstein thing should be the final nail in the coffin of any hope you had of this presidency being any different. I don't understand how people can sit there and pretend, oh, it's so much better. The policies from the Biden era, except on a few tertiary points, have largely been continued. And I know he signed a dearth of executive orders. I covered them on my channel. But they're not being backed up by legislative initiative to actually implement them and bring them into law. The promise of MAGA, the promise of the second Trump administration, it's on the ropes. If you actually care about it, you have to get real loud about it, and you have to signal your anger, because he seems to be concerned primarily with adulation and love from the people. And if you indicate that you don't want to give him carte blanche, your adulation, your love, and your trust, which you shouldn't do with any politician, he might actually pay attention, maybe shift gears somewhat. It's an ongoing tragedy. I can't believe, and this is another test for the comments section, just like putting Al Jazeera was. A broken clock is right twice a day, and here we have Don Lemon, and I don't know how it's now these guys. These guys are the ones that are interviewing Epstein's brother, because a lot of other people are afraid to do it, afraid to touch it. Metadata shows FBI's raw Epstein video was likely modified. The file appears to have been assembled from at least 2 source clips, saved multiple times, exported, and then uploaded to the DOJ's website, where it was presented as raw footage. Complete and total demonstrable lie. As a video editor myself, I know exactly what they're talking about. Meanwhile, Epstein's brother says he was categorically murdered. And for years, a universal signal from MAGA and even people on the left, a touchstone, was Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. And yet so many people are willing, like trained dogs, to flip their script, change their position, because now God Emperor Trump demands it. And now with Republicans in control, covering up Epstein, not delivering on the promise of MAGA, we have this cascade of preventable failures contributed to Trump assassination attempt. The Senate report kind of reminds me of the 9/11 Commission report. We don't know a whole lot about the shooter. We don't know a whole lot about his parents. We know that the house was swept clean, and we've heard so little about it. And how it seemed there was this deliberate, contrived effort with so many eyes and so many security personnel present to enable the opportunity for this guy to get close, to take a couple shots. Now, whether you think it's fake, some people think it's staged. Some think it's real. I've looked at it. It's hard for me to imagine how it wasn't real. But it should be clear to everybody, whether you think it's staged or not, that the entire thing was a setup. But we're not talking about the clear setup here. We're not delving into the investigation and finding out how they just enabled this guy to do what he did. This was not a single error, the report states. It was a cascade of preventable failures that nearly cost President Trump his life. This is a common refrain from government whenever they're trying to cover something up. It's just incompetence. It's just failures. It's just an accident. It was just mistakes. It's just human frailty. Regardless of the evidence of your own eyes, something is deeply disturbing about the sudden turn of the presidency. And you can ignore it if you want to. If you don't want the full story, don't tune in. Again, as I've said before, just unsubscribe and leave. I think you'll come back Because the evidence of your eyes, the evidence of events is so overwhelming that something has gone wrong, and fairly recently, that I think eventually, just like when I told people in 2020 that the PPC was never going to be what they thought it was going to be, and the insults and the invective and the name calling and the accusations, and as the years go by, people just keep trickling back saying, I shouldn't have been so mean to you. And what they find is an open door. The same open door that the people who are quitting now because they can't handle the truth will find on their return. I don't block people. And by the way, I just want to address that again. I don't delete your comments. I can't remember the last time I physically removed a comment from YouTube. I don't know what's going on. Some of mine disappear. I'll look at a video and there's supposed to be 150 comments there, and I can barely count 75. I don't know where the other ones go. There's a special spot on the back end for hidden comments. They're not there. YouTube disappears them. I don't know why. That's why I say, ask YouTube. But it ain't me, and I'm pretty sick of being accused of it. I'm not the guy doing the censoring. I'm Frank Vaughn. I'll see you in the next one.